We're looking at Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 85. Lord Krishna instructs Vasudeva, and it's text number 4. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who manifest as the Lord of both nature and the Creator of nature, Mahavishnu. Everything that comes into existence, however and whenever it does so, is created within you, by you, from you, for you, and in relation to you. Please repeat. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who manifest as the Lord of both nature and the Creator of nature, Mahavishnu. Everything that comes into existence, however, and whenever it does so, is created within you, by you, from you, for you, and in relation to you. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's followers, disciples, etc. To casual observers, the known world appears to be produced by many different agents. A good indication of this conception is language itself, which traditional Sanskrit grammarians explain as reflecting the visible diversity of nature. And the standard Sanskrit grammar taught by the sage Panini, the verb expressing action, is taken to be the essential core of a sentence. And all the other words function in relation to it. Nouns, for example, are put into any of several cases to show their particular relationship to the verb in a sentence. These relationships of noun to verb are called karakas, namely the relations of subject, karata, who does, object, karma, what is done, instrument, karana, by which, recipient, sampradhana, for or toward which, source, apadana, from or because of which, and location, adhikarana, in which. Apart from these karakas, nouns may also sometimes point to other nouns in a possessive sense, and there are also various kinds of adverbs of time, place, and manner. But although language thus seems to indicate the activity of many separate agents in the manifest creation, the deeper truth is that all grammatical forms refer, first of all, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this verse, Vasudeva makes this point by glorifying his two exalted sons in terms of the different grammatical forms. Namo Sabrai Krishna Prashaya Today, Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane, Namaste Saraswate Devi, Gauravani Pracharini, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschajete Shatarini, Hare Krishna. Hope everyone's doing well today. Good. Today's verse is much like yesterday's, in that it identifies the two personalities, the offspring of Vasudeva, namely Krishna and Balaram, being responsible for the creation of the world and being also responsible for being within the creation. So they are the source of the creation. They are also responsible for the action of the creation, and they're responsible for being in this nature. So creator, created, creation, and creatures. They fit in all those places. Now the purport gets kind of technical, and I don't know too much about that, but one thing that does kind of resonate in what is said here is that when it comes to Sanskrit grammar and nouns and actions, they make reference to the Supreme Personality of God, and God is part of it. God is not, let's say, separated from discussions on any topics. And it was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Nimai Pandit, who had a group of students when he was very young. And he also learned from this Panini, lineage that everything is in reference to Krishna. In fact, he would take every word and say it's references to Krishna. It has some connection to Krishna. So in one sense, church and state were always as one, as far as he's concerned. Dharma Pranapur. So where this verse has similarities to yesterday's verse, because we see it in the two words pradana and also Ishvara, or pradana and purush. They're actually, kind of hyphened together. And purush meaning the creator, and then pradana being the energy. And the Lord making it all happen, spinning it all together. And, let's say we have one painting of Vishnu that's up on top of the stairs where the paint is crumbling. And he's looking at the pradana. And while he's lying there, really relaxed, the pradana, all the conglomerate of the elements, 24 elements, they're getting agitated just by looking at you. Just like, say, for instance, have you ever had someone stare at you in such a way that you feel uneasy or you feel totally the opposite? Wow, that person makes me feel real good. Or that person smiles at me, throws some positive vibrations. Well, the Supreme Personality of God is able to do that, to glance at something and get it all stirred up so that creation will come about. And all the living entities that are created in there will also, at least some of them, will be manifest as various forms, as progenitors, fathers of mankind. In Vedic studies, there isn't any subject matter that doesn't include the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's always there. Like in chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, along with the creation, there were demigods, progenitors, and also what came about was action, sacrifice. It was a little bit like lights, camera, action, or lights, camera, karma. Karma means action. That's what it means. And so karma was activated, or action was stimulated simply by the Lord glancing, just by his looking at the pradana. He didn't have to use any tools. He just had to look. He didn't even have to press a button. We know that Vishnu lies on the causal ocean and he's just absolutely relaxing. In fact, he's in a yoga nidra state. Yoga refers to divine, and nidra refers to sleep. So his sleeping is very divine. It is a divine, sacred slumber, you can say. And while he's relaxing, everything's happening. And when we ever take time to relax, you lie down for a nap, like some of us do in the Bhagavatam class, then some things happen. I guess we might dream a little bit, but a lot of things don't get done. In fact, unless if you're sleeping behind the wheel, a lot of things can happen if you're sleeping behind the wheel, like literally if you're in a car and you're sleeping behind the wheel, something's going to happen. And you will not be able to rest in peace, or rest in peach, as we discussed yesterday, but rest in pieces, as they say. some of the truckers, they have that little caption on the back of their vehicle to say, "Sleepy drivers, rest in pieces." Anyways, action in the material world, there's all kinds of activity. There is birth. There's 6 transformations just for the body itself. There's birth. What else is there?
Old age.
Well, okay. Well, you're jumping. What else? After birth, what happens? Hopefully you don't have old age after you're born. Hopefully there's a few years of, niceness. What are the 6 forms of transformation to the body? There's birth, then?
Childhood.
Okay, what in terms of an active word?
Growth.
Growth, yeah, what else?
Maintenance.
Maintenance, okay. What else?
Oh, baby.
Yeah, reproduction. You're producing something even if you don't have kids or you're celibate. You're producing something. At least you're producing sweat. What else? The fruit of your labor comes in the form of sweat. What else?
Dwindling.
Pardon me?
Dwindling.
Dwindling, yes. Aging, dwindling. What else?
Death.
Death. Do we mention 6 points? Let's go at it then again, okay? Somebody can count. You want to count? Okay, first there's birth. Then what?
Growth.
Growth. You're counting? What happens?
Maintenance.
Some level of maintenance, yeah. Third. What else?
Dwindling.
It's embarrassing, we're on, gee. Reproduction,
That's 4.
that's 4. There's aging,
Aging and death.
okay. I think dwindling is part of, it's not exactly aging. Death. 6 transformations of the body, they're all active. Even maintenance, there's activity going on to maintain yourself. To maintain yourself, good health, you have to be doing things, right? You have to be bathing, you have to be eating, maybe you're running, or at least you're working, to maintain the body and all the mechanisms just keep going and so on like that. Anyways, there's a lot of activity that's going on in the world always. Even during the lockdown, they were trying to freeze everybody, but maybe for good reasons. But people were quite active, even if you had to stay within your own quarters, your home, your apartment. And some families have had to live and tolerate being in a very small apartment during those rough times. But there's a lot of activity going on, even sometimes a little bit of arguing, and people getting on each other's cases. People talking about divorce even, they couldn't tolerate each other so much. Going day after day after day being in one, crammed quarters. It's horrible. I remember we were looking at history back in, I think it was public school, before high school even. We were hearing about how the slaves were brought over from Africa. They were put in cages, and put into crammed conditions to the point where they could hardly move, And but almost they had to be, let's say, stilled, but they couldn't, And some people who were on the boat walking through those areas, they would be urine and stool, and because they were not allowed to do their business, And I don't even know what they gave them for eating. It was horrible conditions. But the point is still that they were doing something. There's always some activity. And even in sleep, there's some activity. There's some kind of pranayama going on. And some of us are heavy snorers. I could be one of them. You know, so there's a lot that's going on in the material world, a lot of activity. And even to the point where after we die, we come again and we become active again. We become another actor on the stage of the material existence. And sometimes Krishna also comes as an actor, as he does here with his brother Balaram. In fact, those two are mentioned in the first canto as being like actors on a stage, you know, where they may not necessarily be recognized. They are both Yogeshwaras, they're mystics, they're yogis. People don't recognize who they are, just like sometimes our Christian friends, they talk about, well, Jesus wasn't recognized for being who he was. At least he was a peacemaker. Some people say he performed some miracles. There's the story of the loaves and the fishes, and then one wedding he went to, and there wasn't enough, you know, drink. It was hard to get water in the Middle East, so they would crush grapes, and that was your water. That was your liquid. And there wasn't enough, and somehow or other, and he expanded the amount of it, and it was multiplied, like the loaves and the fishes were multiplied. And there's some other miracles, walking on water, and it's like when I was on one of the walks, I got to New Brunswick, and we got on a radio show early in the morning, which is great when everyone goes to work and they're got the local radio on, and they interviewed me. This was twice, and the guy said several years later, "Oh yeah, I remember you." The moderator or the broadcaster, and he said, "So what are you going to do once you get to Newfoundland? Are you going to go to?" I said, "I'll go to Ireland." "Oh, are you going to walk on water?" You know, because if that's what you're going to do, sounds like a great program. I'd like to learn from you how to do that. So walking, it was just joking, a morning smile or a morning laugh. And so this is what some of the miracles that were enacted by mystics that we read about in the Nectar Devotion. Lagima, Mahima, Praptamya, you know, that becomes lighter than the lightest, become heavier than the heaviest. Being able to stretch out and stretch out your hand like this, and then you come back and you bring some pomegranates from Afghanistan. There you go, almost like a magician. Some yogis have been able to do that. At the Kumbh Mela, devotees were laughing at some of the yogis who were dressed very ornately, like matted hair and with a loincloth, and sometimes not, with no cloth, and some yogis being able to do amazing feats, like putting their heads in the sand and their legs are up, and people are going, "Oh my God," and doing amazing things. There's interesting things that they do sometimes, and it's all there. This one yogi was taking his private part, and he's spun it around a stick, you know, and then people are looking at this. It's kind of like a mystical, like a Disney, like a place of fantasy, you know. And so some of the devotees were looking at these things in the first Kumbh Mela, and they were laughing a little bit. They were giggling, and Prabhupada, when he gave a stern look, said, "Do not laugh. Do not laugh." Yeah. Some of these yogis are in 8 places, in 8 sacred places or rivers, holy rivers at the same time. So we won't touch that. We won't go there. Yeah. But anyways, it's these things are going. These magical feats, you can say. So Jesus and others were able to do these extraordinary things. But to speak of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when I walked through Fiji, there was a man standing there. I think he was in his 30s, and he was standing by the sugarcane field, and it was right next to the road. In some countries where they have sugarcane, it's right next to the road. There's no shoulder to the road. The farmer takes up every square inch to get his money, make sure he gets his money. So this guy was standing there. It was an early sunny morning, and I just stopped. It's nice to see somebody. Sometimes these guys take some kind of drink and it makes them a little intoxicated. Do you have that in Trinidad too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they should be confused as well.
They take some kind of coffee thing or
Yeah.
yeah, and they get a little drunk. Now I don't know, I didn't know what to make out of this guy. And they said, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm fine. I'm just walking across Fiji." And he said, "Well, he looked a little depressed. He said, "Is everything okay?" He said, "I just lost my job. They just told me they didn't want me anymore." I said, "Oh, well, that's too bad. Well, did you want to come walk with me?" And he said, "Well, but I'm a Christian." And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of Christ. Christian." And then I said, "See, listen, Jesus is the Son of God, right?" He said, "Yes, that's right." And he's the Son of God the Father. I said, "Yeah." And who is the Father? Like we say, Krishna is the Father. And Krishna has many sons. Aham bija parara pita. That's in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 14. Krishna is the seed-giving Father of all living beings. And so then I sold him on it. So he said, "Okay, let's walk." And so we walked, because I convinced him that Krishna and Christ have a connection with each other. They happen to like each other. They get along, father and son. Like father and son, they get along with each other. Anyways, we walked for quite some kilometers, and we ended up at the Lautoka temple. That's a city, by the way. One of the biggest. There's Suva, and there's Lautoka. In Lautoka, we have a deity of Krishna, and he's standing on the Kaliya serpent, because Kaliya is supposed to be, hanging out in Fiji, according to Prabhupada and others. The Kaliya serpent wasn't killed by Krishna; he was allowed to live, but he was exiled to go to Fiji. So the local people, they believe there is a place off the ocean, in a water like in a bay, and within a cave, there is supposed to be this Kaliya serpent. And anyone who goes there, they'll come out blind, or they'll go mad. That's the folklore of it all. Yeah. So anyways, there's the Krishna and Christ connection. So this particular person who was walking with me, he was a simple man. He was also a family man. I think he had 2 kids and a wife. We brought him we walked to the temple. And I went to the temple and did some kirtan, and he wanted to just lie down somewhere. So I introduced him to the temple managers, and then after I spent quite some time in the temple, chanting japa and going for kirtan and Raj Bhoga time. Then I came back out and I said, "Where's my friend, my buddy?" And he was in the kitchen. He had taken a nap, he had taken a shower, and now he was washing pots. He was washing pots, and he was really happy. They treated him so nice. His spirits were picked right up because he was doing service. And I'm just telling you that story, not to encourage pot washing here. I'm just relating it all to an actual story, an event that happened in my life when I was walking through Fiji one day, and this guy was saying, "Well, I'm a Christian, so I can't do much with you." So, somebody had asked Prabhupada that question. What about being Christian? And Prabhupada said, "Yes, Christian, it is practically the same." Everybody had a good laugh. They had a good laugh. And, theologians, Christian theologians, they compare, like I have a good friend, I haven't seen him for a while now, Professor, or something simple like Jones, Jim Smith or something like that. And I used to go to Willowdale to his college to do classes, presentations. And he told the class, and it's the fact that this Krishna Bhakti thing that comes from India, branch of Hinduism, it is compared by many theologians to Christian doctrines, Christian practices. So the Bhakti element he was talking about is about devotion, serving. He said it's very similar, the approach. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's approach and Christ's approach are very similar, in that you're serving trying to become perfect like the Father in heaven through service. And there's other instances that make it kind of interesting. Like in the Catholic version of Christianity, they talk about Jesus as a bambino. You know what that means, right? Bambino. So his mother is holding him as a baby. And so they have established in their tradition something that we have a name for. And it's called Vatsalya Rasa. Vatsalya Rasa, like child and parent relationship. And then they also have something in Christianity, especially in some of the Catholic orders. There's something called Madhurya Rasa. That they don't call it that, we call it Madhurya Rasa. So how so? Well, there's nuns who decide to not, like young women, decide they want to dedicate their life to Christ. So they agree to be his bride. They marry Christ. And that's just like, what's her name?
Magdalene.
No, I'm just thinking about that. No, I'm talking about in our tradition. Starts with an M, and her husband was not nice to her, so she decided Krishna will be her husband. What's her name? Starts with an M. Oh, I can't remember it. I feel so bad. Anyways, it's a Madhurya Rasa, that they have. So all these parallels are there. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. They establish themselves as the wives of Christ, and then they dedicate themselves to the mission. By the way, there was a popular Hollywood film that came out, and it was with Bing Crosby, who was the local priest, and there was Ingrid Bergman, who played Mother Superior. And the things that she said, the lines that were given for the actress were so compelling that year many young girls became nuns. They were so moved by her words and how she delivered it. They were so touched, they took it very seriously. So sometimes Hollywood makes you spiritual. The only problem was, not long after, Ingrid Bergman was just not a nun, but like a regular Carmi lady who hangs around, so different guys, So she went and had a divorce, and that really disappointed the girls when they heard that Ingrid Bergman, went from this guy to that guy. And they were really upset with her. I don't know if they stayed. Anyways, main point is there's Madhurya Rasa, there's Vatsalya Rasa, that are established in other traditions, like our own. And that makes it just very interesting, that there's different rasas or relationship. So here, because it's going to be Father's Day in a couple of days, we can think about that Krishna's father is here, and Balaram's father, Vasudeva, and they're giving some instruction to him. But before they do that, he is glorifying them. He's putting them up on a pedestal. Of course, parents do that with kids. I told you the other day, my brother brought the whole stash of our family photos from when my parents were married right up to the point when they passed on. Now the third generations are now up there. And so we're looking at all these different pictures of ourselves, and it's very interesting that we see all these changes going along with the body, and reflecting on seeing pictures of your father and your mother and so on like that. And it's a little bit endearing, especially if they're nice to you. And so, but I remember the first time I came to see my folks, I was totally obnoxious after I joined the movement. Totally obnoxious. I was rude to my siblings, and I said, you have to do it this way. Everything, if you don't believe in Krishna, you're not, whatever. I was just totally over the top in my fanaticism. And we should be never fanatical. We should be really nice to our family members. And then they can respect our Krishna consciousness. So I would say I was not nice. I toned down on the second visit, third visit. I realized that you have to do it the right way. And yet it's very hard to tell your parents, this is my point, to teach them something, when they've been entrenched in another path, which has some similar concepts. So it's very hard to do that. It's very hard to go to your parents and teach them, something about spirituality because they feel they know more than you. And they were always your mentor, and now suddenly you are their mentor, and they just cannot handle it. But in this case, Vasudeva does accept the Supreme Personalities of Godhead. They have something to say, and and this is what's unique about our tradition. As we discussed yesterday as well, that sometimes people learn a lot from their children. They learn a lot from their kids. They learn something about themselves. Oh, wow. I'm seeing myself in this child. I was like that. I did those things when I was young. The children reflect. When we were going through our teenage years, our adolescence, and the hormonal explosions are going on. Your parents are looking at you and they're saying, oh yeah, I was there before. I know what you're going through. And yet we have an attitude when we're young, they don't know anything about me. The only person who understands me is me. It's such a distorted, there was one boy on our Zoom yesterday, and he's 12. He's going to turn 13 in August, right?
Yeah.
And I joked with him, oh, so you're going to be 13. You're going to become a terrorist then. Talk about terrorists. Anyways,